All right, back at the Greenbrier, you said something at the beginning of training camp that caught a lot of interest. You want to play till you're 45. We sat here a year ago, and you said you want to play as long as you can. Tell me why you chose to say 45. And I know you're a guy that likes to prove people wrong, and you have your whole career. What was the method behind maybe saying that?
Yeah, probably the main thing is, I was coming off an off season where, I felt as good as I've ever felt, physically. And I felt like I had I don't know, a few breakthroughs just in regards to my training, my recovery. I work with a lot of people during the off season that get me to where I need to be, both physically, mentally, spiritually, prior to, a long, kind of arduous season. And one of the things that just kind of crossed my path during the month of July was kind of the career of Nolan Ryan. I've always been a big fan of Nolan Ryan. Growing up in Texas, he had a career with the Astros and then a good stretch with the Texas Rangers. And Nolan Ryan, his last pitch was at age 47, and he threw it 95 miles an hour. I mean, you just got to shake your head at that. The guy had like a 28-year professional career. I mean, he was incredible what he was able to kind of sustain throughout his career. And so you look at a guy like that in that day and age and you say, well, why not? Why not be able to play this game for that amount of time? Now, the challenge becomes, week to week, just getting your body ready to, turn around and play another game, and a highly physical game, a highly demanding game. And at the end of the day, I've heard a lot of NFL quarterbacks and major league pitchers say that they would have kept pitching, but they just couldn't do the 5-day turnaround, as a starting pitcher in the major league, or they couldn't do the 7-day turnaround to play another, NFL football game. Had they been given 2 weeks, they could have done it, right, and they would have done it.
Right.
But that's the challenge. That's the aging process. So how do we beat the aging process in a legal, legitimate way? I think too, you set goals throughout your career, and I mean, it's hard to believe that this is my 14th season. I mean, it's really gone by like that. My first year was 2001. Here we are, 2014, and I think you kind of reassess and reevaluate, as you go along. And I think when I first got in the league, it was, gosh, I just wanted to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Wouldn't that be something, right? Second-round pick. I'm sitting behind Doug Flutie in San Diego, and in my second year, I get a chance to compete. I'm the starting quarterback, and then it's, okay, well, I'm now a starting quarterback. Well, I want to be a really good one. I'd like to be a Pro Bowl starting quarterback. That'd be a great level of respect and certainly a big accomplishment. So a couple of years later, I make it to the Pro Bowl, and it's, okay, well, how long can I make it? How long can I stick around this game? Hey, man, if I get to double digits, that'd be something. So age 32, you hit double digits, so it's kind of what's next? Okay, well, let's get to 35. And then once you're at 35, it's like, all right, well, let's really sit here and think about what we can do. Right. But listen, there's so many things that go into this game, and you can never look farther ahead than really 1 week at a time. But it's each season stands alone, and there's so much to accomplish. There's so much to always prove. I mean, you constantly have to prove yourself, no matter what's happened in the past. And yeah, there's skins on the wall, and yeah, there's a track record of consistency, and yet there's always something left to accomplish. There's always somebody coming after you. There's always somebody gunning for you, and there's a new group of players that all of a sudden you're with, and there's this new infusion. We talk about the young receiver talent. I mean, that gets me excited. You see these new faces come in that have all this talent and this drive and desire, and you say, there's also quarterbacks that win one championship, and then there's those that win, more than one. Man, I want to be one of those guys. So there's always that challenge. There's always that that goal that just kind of sits out there, and that you're staring at. But man, I'm not looking too far ahead. Listen, it's 1 year at a time. It's 1 week at a time. It's 1 day at a time. And really just trying to enjoy the moment too, because that's something else I hear from guys is when they leave this game, they miss the locker room, they miss that game day experience, but they miss the journey, they miss the experiences. So I don't want it to pass me by. I want to enjoy the moment.
Earlier in the year, Tom Brady, they were all over him in New England. They even asked Belichick, you know, have you thought about putting him on the bench? And he laughs that off. Some people question your arm strength earlier in the year. Do you ever talk to a guy like Brady when both of you are getting these kind of questions, or how does that affect you at all? I mean, do you laugh at it? How do you respond to some of that?
I think we. I say we. I mean, I know Tom a little bit. I mean, we didn't exchange text messages or phone calls based upon that. I think because we both look at it and just, you know, you chuckle. Yeah. Does it bother you to an extent? Yeah, it does. Just because, you know, people outside the building typically have, you know, no clue as to what's happening in the locker room or on the field or anything else, you know, it's obviously based upon observation or things that, you know, maybe they see. But at the end of the day, there's just, you know, there's always going to be speculation. There's always going to be, if you want to call them doubters, there's always going to be critics. And yet, you know, you've got to be very confident in yourself and what you're doing. And listen, there's high expectations. I feel like our fan base wants us to win just as much as we do, you know? And so is there disappointment? Is there, you know, that feeling of what the heck's going on, you know, when you kind of enter some of these tough times? And yeah, I mean, listen, that's a natural human emotion. And yet, I've always said this about our community and our fan base is that, I mean, if you're overreacting to this after everything that we've been through together,
True.
Then let's just take a step back, you know, take a deep breath, say, you know what, we're going to be all right. We've got a great team. We've got a great fan base. And we have a great challenge ahead of us, but if there's anybody that can overcome that challenge, then it's us.
True. You want to play as long as you can, but you've been around guys who have been stars in this league, whether it's Doug Flutie or Mark Brunell, who've been backups. Can you ever see yourself at a point where you're a backup quarterback, a veteran guy, maybe a mentor, or do you look at it as, when I feel like my skills are at that level, I'm just going to get out of the game?
You know, I really haven't let my mind go there. Again, I think everybody's making, and did make a big deal out of my 45-year-old, you know, playing till I'm 45 years old statement. I think I was just, you know, I was in one of those really enthusiastic moods and just kind of threw it out there, you know, and
right.
Knowing that I'd get that effect. But I'm not naive. You know, I know that it is, man, it's such a grind during the season. And so I really take it just one day at a time, 1 week at a time, one season at a time. But, you know, I'm thinking about how we can win a championship.
Yeah.
And that is my #1 priority right now as a football player. And that's the focus.
How nice would it be, though, if you do play a long time, where your boys could remember you playing a little bit more? They could be a little bit older. I know Archie battled with that a little bit when he left the game.
That factors into it. I mean, that really does, because their enthusiasm for the game and watching Daddy play on Sunday, and you know, knowing who players are, and you know, now wanting to wear their jerseys and run around the house and play tackle football with Daddy. I mean, you know, that's awesome. I mean, there are not many better feelings as a father than just having those moments with your kids. And so, you know, I do feel, part of me feels like when I do leave the game that, you know, you're taking a little bit of that element, you know, away from them, just the experience of, you know, going to the facility and running around on the field and, you know, talking about it in the house and taking them to the Superdome and Daddy's on the field, and, you know, I mean, just all those feelings. I mean, those are great feelings. I mean, we're building some pretty awesome memories right now, and I'd like for that to be able to last as long as we can.
Balin, obviously, he was centerpiece when you won the Super Bowl. I mean, he's about to turn 6 years old, the same day of your birthday. Yeah. Now that he's a little bit older, I know he's only 5 right now. Can he look at that video and understand anything more about it? Do you show it to him now? Does he ask you to see it? Or?
You know, we've seen it. I mean, we've seen it a few times. Right. Haven't seen it in a long time, probably, though. But I mean, he'll see the Sports Illustrated cover, or there's trading cards with that image on it, and I actually have a big picture in my office of it. Right. And you know, he'll make comments every now and
That's
then.
me, right there.
Really, it's it's his brothers. They'll be like,
Right.
you know, that's Bebe, you know, or
Oh, really?
I'll ask Callan he's the real talker right now. You know, he just turned 2, but you know, becoming so much more verbal, especially being around the older brothers, picks up every habit. That's not always a good thing, and every word. But whenever I see it, usually they will absolutely point. Anything football related right now, I mean, they're into it.
But he has more of appreciation of it now than, I mean, he gets a little bit more anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, you know, they're in their own little world, you know. I mean, but
True. Very true.
But I think long term that will be one of the most special moments for the both of us.
So much with the safety of football now. Will you let your boys play the game, or will you wait to a certain age, or have you thought about how you're going to deal with that?
No, I would absolutely let my kids play football, tackle football, but I think waiting till an appropriate age is something that I will absolutely do. You know, I think there's so many other ways to enjoy the sport of football without putting pads on, you know, at age 7, 8, 9. I mean, I played flag football 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, so I didn't put pads on until 9th grade. And, you know, a lot of guys in my locker room, same way, might not have played football until high school. So, again, there's so many other ways to enjoy it. I think that as long as you're I mean, listen, there's dangers, there's risk of injury in every sport, just at different levels. You know, what I found interesting was I think the second highest instance of concussions behind football is women's soccer. You know, so I mean,
you never know.
Who would have thought?
Right.
You know, and so as long as you understand the risk of injury with each sport, and then you know once an injury does occur, how to treat it and make sure that you know everything is all good before you know your child steps back on the field again, then you know I think injuries come with the territory when it comes to sports. But certainly that's been a big topic for the NFL, and something, you know, rightfully so. But yeah, I think there's an appropriate age, and probably middle school.
Finally, have you thought about how you're going to be watching them play? I mean, Archie's a good role model, Archie Manning, but everybody's different. Everybody has a different level of enthusiasm, and I'm sure you're going to be protective. How's that going to be for you in whatever sport they play or whatever they do?
Yeah, I feel like I've experienced it on a small level, just you know, watching other like cousins, nephews, that kind of thing play, and just visualizing what this is going to be like as a parent, and or maybe just you have somewhat of a vested interest because you know what, but you're just observing other parents.
Good points, bad points.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I have an interesting perspective based upon the fact that you know I play professional sports for a living, and so I think there's a bit of that. You know what? You've got to just kind of take your hands off the wheel and just let your kids play. Let your kids have fun. I think the biggest element to youth sports is just letting your kids have fun. They have the rest of their life to, you know, kind of bear down and focus, and certainly you don't want to narrow down a sport for a child until, you know, it's absolutely necessary. I mean, my thing with my kids is I'm going to encourage them to play sports. I'm going to encourage them to play as many sports as they want to and can handle. And the expectation is that when you step on the field, you are giving it 100%. You are not going to quit. And there's all these life lessons that are going to come up through sports. Are they going to come up to me crying because they hit their shin with somebody on the soccer field? Probably. Are they going to cry, you know, if they get pulled out of the game, or if they lost, or if they struck out? Or yes, that's going to happen. And you know what? Those are good things, because life lessons can come from that. So I'm waiting for those moments to be able to instill those life lessons in them based upon sports, and that's what's so great about youth sports.